Let me paint you two pictures. Picture the first guy. He pulls in about $4,000 a month. He is not blowing money at the casino. He is not living some extravagant lifestyle. He pays his rent on time, shows up to work every single day, and genuinely believes he is doing the right things with his money. But every month, without fail, somewhere around the 22nd or 23rd, something happens. He opens his bank app, sees the number staring back at him, and quietly closes it, because that number does not match the life he thought he was building. Now, picture the second guy. He earns about $3,200 a month, less money, tighter budget on paper. But when he opens his bank app, he does not close it immediately. He actually smiles, because sitting behind his checking account is a number he built slowly, painfully, and deliberately over the last year and a half. A number that completely rewired how he thinks about his future, how he negotiates at work, and how he sleeps at night. That number is $10,000. And I already know what is running through your head. $10,000 does not sound like a life-changing number. It is not a beach house. It is not a business. It is not a retirement account. But what I am going to walk you through today is why $10,000 is not just a savings milestone. It is a psychological threshold. And the moment you cross it, the rules of money start working completely differently, not slightly differently. If you're watching from the USA, please press the hype button right now. It helps this video reach more viewers across the United States during the first 7 days after upload. If you're watching from another country, please give this video a like and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to support and encourage us to create more amazing content. And be sure to watch this video until the very end. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Here is the thing most financial content will never tell you. The gap between people who build real wealth in America and people who earn a solid income for 30 years and have almost nothing to show for it. That gap is not income. It is not intelligence. It is not even discipline, exactly. It is a single invisible line drawn at $10,000. Not because the number is magical in itself, but because of what happens on the other side of it, inside your psychology, inside your math, and inside your career that almost nobody explains clearly. There is a version of you that exists before $10,000. There is a completely different version that exists after it. And most people spend their entire financial lives on the wrong side of that line without ever understanding why. They are tools that help you focus your thoughts, strengthen your beliefs, and align your actions with the future you want to create. But before we begin, I need you to make me one promise. Do not skip ahead. Stay with me until the very end. Near the close of this video, I am going to share something most people never hear when it comes to prosperity and wealth. A simple shift in thinking that has the power to change the way you look at money, opportunity, and your own potential. Many people miss it because they leave too soon. Don't be one of them. Give yourself these next 20 minutes. Be fully present. Let every word land where it needs to. Let us start with the part that no spreadsheet will ever show you. When you have no savings, or almost none, your brain is running in what psychologists call survival mode. And this is not motivational language. This is a measurable neurological reality. When your bank balance is sitting near zero, the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for long-term thinking, rational planning, and recognizing opportunity, is essentially switched off. Your entire mental bandwidth gets consumed by one single question. How do I make it to the end of this month? Think about what that does to every decision you make. You take the first job offer that comes along because you cannot afford to wait for a better one. You stay in a role that is quietly suffocating your potential because leaving feels too risky. You say yes to overtime you resent, terms you hate, and projects that drain you, Because the alternative is a bank account that cannot cover rent. Every financial decision you make from zero savings is a decision made from fear. And fear is the single worst financial advisor in existence. Now here is what changes at $10,000. Even a modest financial buffer signals to your brain that the immediate threat is gone. Your prefrontal cortex comes back online. You stop asking how to survive this month, and you start asking how to grow what you have. You stop reacting, and you start planning. The questions you ask yourself about money change entirely, and the quality of every decision you make changes with them. Warren Buffett understood this before most people his age understood anything about money at all. He said, "The first rule of compounding is never interrupt it unnecessarily." But here is what that quote is really saying beneath the surface. You cannot even begin to think about compounding if survival is the only thing on your mind. The psychological shift at $10,000 is not a reward for saving. It is the prerequisite for everything that comes after it. I call this escaping the survival trap, and it is the most underrated transformation in personal finance. Let me introduce you to two guys. Call them Marcus and Ryan. Same city, Dallas, Texas. Same age, 29. Same starting salary, $42,000 a year. They graduated from the same state school the same year and started their careers on almost identical footing. The only difference is a single decision Marcus made about 20 months ago. Marcus decided that before any lifestyle upgrade, before any social spending, before any non-essential purchase, $500 would leave his checking account on the first of every month, automatically, before he could see it, before he could think about spending it. 18 months later, Marcus crossed $10,000 for the first time in his life. Ryan spent those same 18 months doing what most Americans do. Not recklessly, not stupidly, just living. A long weekend trip here, new gear there, upgraded his phone when his contract came up, went out with his friends on Friday nights without tracking what he spent. Nothing that felt irresponsible in the moment. At the end of 18 months, Ryan had about $600 saved and a storage unit full of things he barely remembered buying. Now here is where the paths diverge completely. When Marcus's company announced a round of layoffs, he sat in that meeting without panic. He was not desperate. He was not willing to accept whatever terms were handed to him just to keep a paycheck coming in. He spent 6 weeks turning down 2 offers that were not right and landed a new role paying $54,000 a year. His $10,000 buffer gave him the time and the confidence to negotiate like someone who had real choices. Because he did. When Ryan heard the same announcement, he sent his resume out that afternoon and accepted the first callback he received, a lateral move, same salary, just to stop the financial bleeding. He is still in that role today, telling himself the timing is not right to make a move. Same starting line, completely different trajectories. The only variable was $10,000. Now let us talk about the math, because the psychology is only half the picture. Most Americans have heard of compound interest. Few have actually felt it working in their favor. And the reason they have not felt it is simple. They have never had enough capital sitting still long enough for it to become visible. At $500 in savings, a 7% annual return gives you $35 a year. That is real money. But it does not change how you think or how you act. It barely registers. At $10,000 at 7%, you are generating $700 a year, nearly $60 every month, in completely passive income. Money that arrived without you trading a single hour of your life for it. For the first time ever, your money is working for you while you sleep, while you sit in traffic on the highway, while you are doing absolutely nothing financially productive. But here is where it gets genuinely exciting. Say you are saving $500 a month and investing it at 8% annually. Getting to your first $10,000 takes roughly 19 months. It is slow. It is grinding. Every single month feels like you are pushing a boulder up a hill in the summer heat. Your second 10,000 takes only 16 months. Not because anything changed, not because you got a raise, but because the first 10,000 is now working alongside your contributions, generating its own returns every single day. Your third 10,000 takes 14 months. By the time you have compounded to $100,000, that same 8% return is generating $8,000 a year, more than $650 every single month, without you doing a thing. The boulder has crested the hill. Gravity has switched sides entirely. Every month that passes, your money does more of the heavy lifting, and you do less of it. Buffett did not become the most successful investor in American history because he had access to secret strategies unavailable to everyone else. He got there because he started early in Omaha, never interrupted the compounding, and understood one thing with total clarity. The first $10,000 is not the destination, it is the launch pad. But here is where most people blow it completely, and I mean most people. I call it the lifestyle reward trap. It is the single most common way hardworking Americans undo 18 months of real financial discipline in a single weekend decision. Here is exactly how it works. You sacrifice. You say no. You grind through over a year of delayed gratification. You cross $10,000 for the first time in your life. And then your brain, which has been running in deprivation mode for months, sends the loudest signal it has sent in a very long time. You earned this. You deserve to celebrate. You have been so disciplined. Go treat yourself. And so you do. Maybe it is a trip to Miami or Vegas. Maybe it is finally getting the truck you have been eyeing for 2 years. Maybe it is furnishing your apartment the way you always pictured it. Every single one of these decisions feels completely justified. It feels like a reward for good behavior. And in isolation, none of them seem like a terrible choice. What they actually are, collectively, is destroying your launch pad. That $10,000 is not a prize you won for being responsible. It is the seed. It is the exact point where, for the very first time in your financial life, the math starts running in your favor instead of against you. The moment you spend it, you reset the entire clock. You go back to survival mode. You go back to making every decision from fear instead of from strategy. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's legendary partner at Berkshire Hathaway, had a phrase for the thinking that lands people in this trap. He called it first-order thinking, seeing only how something feels right now without tracing the second and third-order consequences that follow. The Vegas trip feels like a reward. The second-order consequence is 18 more months before you escape survival mode. The third-order consequence is years of compounding you will never get back under any circumstances. Protecting your $10,000 after you build it is honestly harder than building it was. Most people fail at the second part. The ones who do not are the ones who end up financially free. Here is something the personal finance world almost never talks about directly. $10,000 does not just change your relationship with money, it changes your relationship with work. And in America, where the average worker logs over 90,000 hours at a job over their lifetime, that shift is worth far more than the $10,000 itself. When you have nothing saved, you are professionally trapped. Your employer does not consciously know it, but in every negotiation, every performance review, every uncomfortable conversation, the desperation leaks through. You do not push back on unfair terms because you cannot risk being let go. You do not ask for the raise you have clearly earned because the stakes feel too high. You do not take 30 days between jobs to find the right fit because you need the next direct deposit too urgently. You are negotiating from the weakest possible position every single working day of your life. $10,000 changes that dynamic entirely. Suddenly, you have what I call walking away capital. Not enough to retire, not enough to replace your income for a year, but enough to sit across from your manager and negotiate like someone who has genuine options. Because for the first time, you do. You could survive 3 months without a paycheck, maybe 4. That buffer transforms every professional conversation you will ever have. And here's the remarkable part. You often do not even need to use it. Just knowing it is there changes how you carry yourself in every room. You become more direct, more confident, more willing to take on visible, high-stakes work because the fear of failure is no longer catastrophic. People notice that energy. They respond to it. You get better assignments, more visibility, and more compensation, which accelerates your savings, which compounds further, which gives you even more walking away capital. It is a self-reinforcing cycle, and $10,000 is precisely where it begins. Warren Buffett delivered newspapers growing up in Omaha, Nebraska. By age 15, he had saved over $2,000 from paper routes, selling golf balls, and detailing cars, which in today's dollars is well over $20,000. He did not save that money because someone told him to. He did it because he had already understood something that most adults in America never fully grasp. Capital is not just money. Capital is stored time. Every dollar you save is an hour of your life you will never have to trade for money again. Every dollar you invest is a worker you send out on your behalf, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every single day of the year, without a salary, without benefits, without sick days, and without a single complaint. Munger said it with his trademark directness. He said, "The first 100,000 is a bitch, but you gotta do it." He was talking about the grinding pain of crossing that first major financial threshold. The slow, unglamorous, invisible accumulation that feels like it is never going to amount to anything significant. Your first threshold is $10,000. It does not belong on a vision board next to a Lamborghini. It does not sound like freedom, but it is where your psychology shifts, where your math starts accelerating, where your career leverage changes, and where the most important financial habit of your entire life either gets locked in permanently or gets abandoned the first time temptation shows up. The people who protect their first 10,000 go on to build 100,000. The people who spend it to celebrate it reset the clock and find themselves 5, 7, 10 years later still living paycheck to paycheck despite earning more than they ever have before. At the beginning of this video, I promised you a shift in thinking that most people never hear. Here it is. Stop thinking of savings as money you are giving up. Start thinking of savings as soldiers you are recruiting. Every dollar you save is not a sacrifice. It is an enlistment. You are building an army, completely silent, completely tireless, completely loyal, whose only job is to generate more wealth for you while you live your life. The larger that army grows, the faster it recruits new soldiers on its own. And once that army crosses 10,000 strong, it hits a threshold where it starts to become genuinely unstoppable. That is compound interest, not as a formula in a textbook, but as a lived, measurable reality, available to you right now, starting exactly at $10,000. So here is your assignment, tonight. Not this weekend, not when things settle down at work, tonight. Open your phone and pull up a blank note. Write down your current savings balance, just the number, zero judgment. Then write down what it would take in dollars per month to reach 10,000 within the next 12 months. Then write down one single expense above $200 a month that you could cut or reduce to make that math work. One number, one timeline, one cut. That is the entire assignment. because the gap between where you are right now and $10,000 is almost certainly smaller than it feels. And the gap between $10,000 and a completely different financial life is smaller still. Drop a month in the comments below, the specific month you are committing to hit $10,000. January, July, next March, whatever it is, write it down publicly. Because the research is clear. People who commit out loud are far more likely to follow through than people who keep the goal locked quietly inside their own heads. I will be in the comments reading every single one, and I will see you in the next video, where we go one level further and break down exactly what Buffett did with his first major capital milestone and what it can teach every American investor about building wealth over the decade ahead. Stay patient, stay deliberate. The greatest investors in history were never the fastest. They were simply the ones who started and never stopped.